welcome to our video on our profile of Sean Diddy Combs.
Yes.
So first we're going to start off with like a little background. So Sean Diddy Combs is a very influential music producer who started his Bad Boy Records in 1993. And he became like a huge powerhouse to like the R&B rap like industry in the 1990s. He also used he started up a lot of like careers like J-Lo, like the Notorious B.I.G., like Maze, Cassie, and he also used like those people's fame to like put himself up. And he also like had different like I guess you could say like careers throughout like his lifetime. He like did the producing, he did the rap, he did like a clothing line, he worked with like vodka, like he was on TV shows, so like he was kind of like everywhere, and he just like was a very influential person.
I think like him being like part of so many types of business like shows like how much money he had and like how powerful he was like overall in like the business like
aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the examples of Diddy talking about power and control, it's one of his like startup songs, Mo Money, Mo Problems, featuring Notorious B.I.G. and Mace. And it's all about having money and having power and that you can like basically get away with anything. And
he basically also in the video like he capitalizes on money, which like having money gets you away with like crazy amount of things. And yeah, next we're gonna show you.
You can do whatever you want.
We're gonna show you a clip of the music video.
Nigga double up, we don't play around, it's a bet, lay it down. Niggas didn't know me 91, bet they know me now. I'm the young Harlem nigga with the Goldie sound. Can't no PD niggas hold me.
For example, there's like a huge law case with Cassie, which is like one of like a singer and model that he kind of like brought into the light. They dated from 2007 to 2018, and she quote unquote said like the relationship, like the romantic relationship kind of set the groundwork for a manipulative, coercive, romantic, and sexual relationship. So, like, in the lawsuit, like, there's, like, stated abuse, sexual harassment, like, certain parties, like, the Diddy parties, like, the quote-unquote freak-offs that he would make her attend, and, like, she said she would do things that were not, like, she did not want to. She said they were drug-fueled, day-long sexual performance, like, parties. And then he coerced women into and, like, filmed for his own pleasure. And he also had, what she stated, he had a tremendous like loyal network. So basically he was like such an influential person that he kind of decided who got fame and who kind of got a voice. So those people that he brought into the light, he kind of bought their silence of like how he kind of made them famous. So like in this video we're gonna show you him beating Cassie, which was also in the lawsuit, which he eventually like bought his silence, and like shows how money and power can get you out of certain situations. And yeah.
Trigger warning.
Multiple cameras shows Combs assaulting his then girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016. A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video. There is no audio. Moments later, he can be seen throwing an object in her direction. According to Ventura's now settled lawsuit, the pair began dating several years after they met in 2005. They parted ways in 2019. Combs' attorney said the decision to settle was in no way an admission of wrongdoing.
So P. Diddy wasn't much of a producer until Biggie Smalls died, and his record kind of blew up after like he brought Biggie and like made him popular. And then he was killed, and P. Diddy like commercialized his death and created like a documentary movie thing called Can't Stop, Won't Stop about like his life, but it was after Biggie Smalls died and like making it a smaller thing than it was. And then people also thought that Diddy had killed Biggie Smalls because they were like some sort of rivalry, but he got away with it, which also goes back to the theme of like power and control, and like having money, you can get away with anything.
Yeah, and a lot of people also said that he like capitalized on it, so he like used that to build himself up. And like honestly, like all the rumors like that went around about him killing just gave him more like spotlight and fame and like influence.
Appreciate life, and it made me want to do things for the greater good.
How do you carry on this legacy?
I wanted to make sure like that this dream meant something at the end of the day, because this young man, lost his life throughout this journey.
As soon as them shots went off, everything came crashing down.
That legendary loss and the rise of Bad Boy Records explored in the new documentary Can't Stop, Won't Stop, A Bad Boy Story. What is the Bad Boy Story?
The Bad Boy Story is a group of young individuals that have come from the New York area, that grew up and was influenced in hip-hop and took hip-hop to another level.
Another example of like a kind of career that he like brought up but also like used against her in a sense is like J-Lo, how he kind of like brought her to light and like on Bad Boy Records like made her who she was, but like making her who she was, he also used like certain things against her and like kind of was manipulated in like the relationship part. Like there was rumors going around that like their business relationship was also romantic and had to maybe do with ending her first marriage. And also like people say that he maintained leverage over people, incoming artists and established ones, for their silence and other things.
People often compare Diddy to people like Jay-Z in the music industry because they're both very influential and both like huge artists. And they both have built like really big empires that go beyond just music and then go into businesses like fashion and alcohol. And they share a similar attitude of resilience and ambition, often using their platforms to advocate for social issues. However, their behaviors differ. Diddy's known for a very flashy lifestyle, and Jay-Z tends to maintain like a more like smaller public image. Besides, like, he is like married to Beyonce, but like besides the point. And then Jay-Z and Diddy were also in like a lawsuit together, and they had charges saying that they both raped a 13-year-old girl together, and the charges eventually got dropped by the accuser, which also goes to show that having that much money and power you can pay off people to like minimize the damage done.
Yeah, and another person that people would also like compare Diddy to was R. Kelly, because he is like a very known rapper and around the same like time frame, but he didn't have as much influence and money as like Sean Diddy Combs, but he was like alleged like he like was convicted with several like different rapes and sexual abuse on other girls, but he was eventually convicted, unlike Diddy. Yeah, his cases are ongoing, but like it just shows like since R. Kelly didn't have as much influence and money as Diddy, he was convicted earlier. Like he didn't get away with it, quote unquote, as long as Diddy did. And like now that Diddy stuff is coming out, it's like later on. Yeah.
Wealth and power can significantly influence an individual's ability to manipulate and not have to take accountability for their actions. An example are cases like Jeffrey Epstein, Leslie Wexner, and P. Diddy. Each of these people are very powerful figures, and it raises ethical questions and highlights the darker side of humanity and how the world works. And these are just examples of three very powerful people who used money and their power to get away with the awful crimes that they committed.
So the first person, Jeffrey Epstein, like stands out the most, like out of all three, because his like case was so widely known and like all the stuff he like got away with for so long was like insane. But he basically was able to make such like a vast network of like people because of like his influence and money. and like he was able to like exploit like young women and like manipulate people to do things that like are not like allowed or legal. And he was also very smart with his like relationships with like powerful figures. So like he was good at manipulating very like powerful people, like for example Lex Wexner. And the allegations against him reveal like disturbing pattern of manipulating those around him, and like he often silenced victims through like intimidation and power and like financial statements.
You know, somebody like Sean Combs can't have this many victims if he's doing it all by himself. It reminds me very much of Jeffrey Epstein, who I represented 11 victims of. And he had a whole operation with Ghislaine Maxwell and other recruiters. And similarly with Sean Combs, we think there's a lot of people and companies who were complicit, and we named them. Well, of course, those people don't like being named. They don't like being associated with Sean Combs. Many of them have come to us and said, we shouldn't be in the case. Here's why. You have to dismiss us. If you don't, we're going to go to the judge and ask the judge to dismiss us. So we've had a lot of back and forth with them. Also, we had to serve everyone, which was not easy. Sean Combs was in prison, and we wanted his attorneys to accept service. Otherwise, we could have sent somebody into the prison to serve him, but that's somewhat complicated. So we got all of that ironed out. Everybody is now served. And some of the defendants were still considering whether they really should be in or should be out. We're willing to listen to evidence. I mean, I've always said, just because somebody was at a party or did business with Sean Combs does not mean that they were complicit. They may not have known. But if they did know and they turned a blind eye to it and they funded him, then they were complicit. And then we're not letting them out of the case.
So basically, piggybacking off of the whole Jeffrey Epstein, another case is Les Wexner, which is the former CEO of L Brands and like including Victoria's Secret. So he is really big and like a wide-known millionaire. And while Wexner was not like accused of the same like criminal and like crimes as Epstein, his ties to Epstein were very like noticeable. His wealth influenced and allowed Epstein to like access like high profile environments and people and influentials and like responsibilities to like get him in certain places and like kind of buy him silence around certain parts of like America. And his allegations of financial like mismanagement, like funds and like taking funds from certain brands to give to Epstein, is like another example of how these wealthy individuals in the world have protected themselves with like their money and influence to get away with crimes.
Diddy, he was a huge music producer and had like a very high celebrity status and a lot of money. And he's faced many allegations throughout his career, like sexual misconduct, harassment, abuse, and his like freak-offs, which are what he's like going to trial for right now. But his influence in the entertainment history has granted him a lot of power, and he has been accused of silencing those who speak out against him and those who accuse him of doing these crimes. And there are also a lot of very other high-profile celebrities who have been tied to him and like that are on like the Diddy list, or which is the same as like Epstein's list. And it did raise a lot of questions about who might have known about like what really went on at his like parties, and it raises a lot of questions. And did they just like let it happen, or what did they do? And did he like buy their silence?
Yeah, it also like relates to Epstein, like she said, like the list, like those certain people like being around such other high profile people, you're just like wondering like if they knew about it, if he bought their silence and like etc. But like the common like theme between like those like individuals, like how like famous they are and like the money they have and like the power, like they just kind of like use it to manipulate others, like, and not take accountability for their actions and like all the illegal like stuff that they have been doing. And their cases like highlight like the financial like resources that they use to like get away with like in the justice system and like whatever, and just allowing individuals to like engage in criminal behavior like without having like repercussions, and like one, they have so much power and influence, like, on all, like, certain, like, since they're such, like, business individuals and, like, CEOs, like, they have so many, like, people that they know and connections that they can just get away with so many things, which is very scary.
That's it.